What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. You know, I figured I'd do this video now. I keep putting off this 2.5 year review on my fleet manager, but these videos keep coming up that I think is maybe a little bit more important. And especially for new drivers, well, really only for new drivers. This isn't anything. If you got some experience, this really isn't going to be the video for you. But one of my friends over at Prime, check out her channel, Miss Monique. I forget the entire, man, she has a channel name so long. Miss Monique getting into trucking after 50, something like that. Go check her out. But she'd done a video yesterday asking, you know what, is it, forgot how the video was worded, but basically saying, is it a requirement that a truck driver get a 10-hour rest break? Now, logs are one thing, reality is a different thing. So the two kind of are in conflict with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, your logs can say one thing, but your body can say another. And there's ways to kind of get around that, and I'm not condoning doing this, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And these are things that I may have done when I first got out on my own, as opposed to now. The communication with me and my fleet managers is kind of how I handle the situation. So a lot of times your dispatcher, whether your dispatcher knows or doesn't care about it, can't distinguish the difference between what your logs say and what your reality is. So a good example of this would be, let's say I get to a shipper receiver, and this is a good one that I can think of, a perfect example. You get to a shipper receiver, you spend 8 hours on the dock. Now, during those 8 hours, a lot of times you're not able to go to sleep, either because, you know, if you pull up to a dock and they tell you you're going to be here for 8 hours, a lot of times you might be able to relax enough to go to sleep. But sometimes you don't know if it's going to be 8 minutes or 8 hours. You know what I'm saying? So you really don't get into that sleep all that good. So your clock shows, now that you've rested for 8 hours, you've got back all this time, whether you've got the full 10-hour break or not, you've recouped some hours that you could possibly drive. A fleet manager could say, you know what? Here's a load, you got the hours to do it, and put that load on you. Now, what kind of can happen is you get back with your fleet manager and you say, listen, I can't do this, I'm tired, whatever. They're going to say, you were just in the sleeper for 8 hours. So they don't know the difference between what the reality was and what your clock says, right? So, like I said, I'm not condoning this. You know, there has been a time when I just had to tell, you know, I had to check my fleet manager one time. I was actually teaming at the time. And he's looking at our clocks. Our clocks are showing we got all these hours, but we were up a lot longer than what our log said. And, you know, he got a little testy on the situation. This was earlier on. So, what can you do? You know what? Trip that log. If you have to, I'm saying that's a last resort. What I'm going to say is, if you're going into a situation where you're going to be at a dock for a while, or you can see it going that way, contact your fleet manager before they even send you a load and say, listen, my clock I may get hours back on this clock, whether it's through a split or an actual break or whatever, but I haven't had a chance to rest due to whatever these reasons are. I mean, you don't really have to get into it. They should be able to understand that there's just reasons why you're not going to be able to sleep. You're at a dock, or if you were off for 2 hours, like in her case, you know, 3 hours, whatever it is, and you're in line while you're moving up, but you're actually showing that as off duty, you could show some hours coming back and not have any of that time that you've spent there as a rest break, sleep, whatever. Now, I say this is last resort because I don't think tripping your clock is the best thing to do, because now you might end up having to take a longer break than you want, when really you might just be able to get by with a 4-hour nap or something to get by. So what I mean by tripping your clock for you new guys out there is, let's say you're at a dock and you don't want to get another load for whatever reason, you're tired, whatever. As soon as you start getting in a position where you think you're about to recap some hours, whether that's after extending your 14-hour break on a 8-2 split, 2-8 split, 7-3-3-7, whatever, go on duty right quick. Go on duty and then just say tire inspection. Do whatever. Start that clock back over again. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, sorry about looking over here, but there's a truck driver that's giving away some free shit that apparently got, declined at the receiver. So I was just wondering if I wanted to go over there and give me some free shit. But trip your clock, interrupt that break period, have it start back over, and ensure yourself a break. And sometimes you might have to do that more than once. Personally, once in a period of time. I've only done it one time, and I just felt like, you know what, that's like killing a fly with a hammer. You know what I'm saying? It's like, once you trip that clock, now you got to go spend an entire 10 hours or 8 hours or whatever the situation calls for, when really all you might need is a few hours. So I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, let's just keep it real with the fleet manager. Listen, I'm not going to trip my clock. I'm not ready for a load. Make my PTA this time, or tell them don't give me anything until I get with you and tell you kind of when I think I might be ready to drive, because you may not want to put that out there a whole another 10 hours or something like that. And I've said it a lot of times in these videos, is you need to change this from being a transactional business to a personal business. You need to get with your fleet manager, have a personal relationship with your fleet manager, so you can have those conversations with him where you're not feeling like you need to trick yourself into some time off or do things that are really unnecessary to perform your job out here. So, like I said, that's the last. That's the last option I would choose. Like I said, I did it once, and I just think that honesty's the best policy. Sometimes them little stupid ass sayings they have out there, those are some good ass sayings. I guess they became popular for a reason. But and also, if it's a safety concern, because I'll tell you right now, I'm good for 36 hours. You know what I'm saying? So, and maybe even longer than 36 hours if those last few hours are into the daylight or something like that. You have to know your body. You have to know all that stuff. 36 hours for me ain't nothing. I'll run that shit like, whatever. If you don't have that stamina, and it becomes a safety concern if a dispatcher sends you a load, and I hate to even say this because I know sometimes, and I'm not talking about my dispatcher, some dispatchers can get a little reckless with their tone of voice. I'm just saying, not mine, but I've actually overheard these conversations on the phone, so I know they happen. So some of these dispatchers can get a little fucking reckless with how they talk to people. I think a lot of that is communication. Like, you aren't communicating enough to get on that personal level. Because I think once you get on that personal level, that little disrespect that sometimes goes on kind of fades away. And then if it doesn't fade away, you got to live with what you got to live with, and just throw safety in their face. You know what I'm saying? I can't safely run this load. And again, and I know I'm rambling. Let's say you're at a dock for a while, your hours are coming back. Every hour, 2 hours, send a message through the Qualcomm so they can track, okay, he's not asleep. And if they do send you something, remember I sent you this saying I'm still in line, or I'm still in the dock, or I had to do this, had to do that. Send something every now and then to let people know you haven't had a chance to go to sleep. Here's what I'm doing. I mean, that's the last case resort. And like I said, these are not issues I have with my fleet manager. And I don't have, I'm going to just say it right now. I would not have that issue with any fleet manager, because, it goes back on to something I've been saying a long time, is put yourself in a position where you don't need this. You don't need this paycheck. You don't need this load. You don't need this job in general. And that relaxes you up a little bit, and it really can, I think, that's a whole different video. Being comfortable about how you are and how you do this job allows you to act in a way where people understand that you do not need this, and they kind of react accordingly. It's hard for me to explain it, but even before that, damn, I'm rambling. Just build a relationship with your fleet manager so this shit is not a problem. Let's just keep it that simple. There's no reason to go through trickery. There's no reason to go through like having to check somebody, or just be like, you know what, I don't need this or whatever. Build a relationship so you guys are on the same page, fighting for the same thing. That should be enough right there. Anyway, before I keep rambling on, I just want to say thank you for stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.